Okay, now that you've resumed the video, do you have a view that looks kind of like this? It's okay if it doesn't look exactly like this. That's okay. It should look kind of like this, all right? Now, mentioned before, we're going to design and draw a keychain in 3 dimensions. That keychain will be approximately 3 inches by 1.5 inches. Well, I shouldn't say approximately. I want it to be exactly 3 inches by 1.5 inches. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, I showed you earlier how you can measure things and how that length appears down here, the measurements, but there's some tools we can use so we can make our drawings much easier of a certain size. So let's go ahead and do a little initial setup before we start drawing anything. We're going to go up here to Window and we're going to go to Model Info. This whole thing that we're drawing in SketchUp is referred to as a model. Now, if you notice, it defaults to decimal format, and this is the precision, and we're in inches. Well, I'm going to change it to architectural. Well, what does that mean? Well, architectural means that it's going to give, instead of decimal equivalents of distances, it's going to give us equivalents in fractions of an inch. Now, why might I do that? The reason I'm doing that is if you're using a ruler or a tape measure, the tick marks on the tape measure are fractions of an inch. So let's get used to that. Now, in the precision, what this means is how close can I get? How to a particular, when I want to see my lengths, do I want to see it measure the lengths out to a 64th of an inch? For a keychain that is 3 inches by 1.5 inches, a 64th of an inch is a very, very small measurement. Matter of fact, it does not even appear on your standard ruler. We're going to go down to a precision of, let's say, a 1/16 of an inch. That is about the smallest unit you will ever see on a standard ruler. Now, so that should be a good enough precision for us. Now, what is this enable length snapping 1/16 of an inch? This is an extremely useful tool when you're trying to draw something of a particular size. What this does is, as I draw a line, whatever unit I have set this to, it'll only let me stop and start on a measurement that is a multiple of that unit. Let me give a very simple example. First of all, I'm going to enable this, and I'm going to set this snap to be 1 inch. Let me double check I did that right. Yes, 1 inch. Notice that little double quote mark there? In architectural notation, the double quote mark means inches. If it were a single quote, it would mean feet. So let's get used to that too in architectural terms. A double quote after a measurement, a number like that means inches. So I've enabled length snapping to 1 inch. So what is that going to do? Well, let's say I want to draw a line. Now, we're going to show you a little bit of the drawing tools. We'll definitely do more of this in a few seconds. I want to draw a line. Well, this draws a straight line from point to point. This draws a freehand all curvy line. Let's just draw a straight line for right now. And follow along as I'm doing this. So I start like here on the y-axis and I click. You notice as I move the pencil, nothing appears to be happening because it's jumping out to 1 inch. It is only going to let me start and stop at increments of 1 inch. In other words, it is going to snap to increments of 1 inch. Also, if you notice the length down here, watch what happens to that as I move it around. It says 1 inch. As I move out here a little further, oh, it snaps out to 2 inches, 3 inches. And you see the length in the bottom right corner down here is saying 3 inches. it'll only let me draw a line that is a multiple of 3 inches. In other words, it is snapping to that length I set. So if you wanted to draw a straight line 3 inches long, you could see how helpful this would be. Now 1 inch is a pretty big increment. You can't draw anything very detailed with that. So let's try something a little smaller. Go back to Model Info under the Window tab, and we're going to change it to 1/8 of an inch. Now as I draw, you see as I draw it jumps to 1/8. Then it jumps to 2/8. But why doesn't it say 2/8 there? Well, because 2/8, if I reduce that, is equal to 1/4. This is how carpenters would communicate distances as well in architectural terms. They wouldn't say 2/8, they would say 1/4. Now I'm at 3/8, 4/8, which is again, 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2, etc. So now as I draw this line, the pencil, or the length of the line, will jump to increments of 1 inch. Very helpful when doing something like we're about to do. So let's go ahead and make sure we set up our model info to be architectural units. Precision of 1/16 of an inch is good, and we'll enable length snapping to 1/8 of an inch. And now we're ready to start drawing our keychain, but go ahead and make sure you set up your model info to those parameters, and pause the video, and then you'll continue with the video and we'll start drawing our keychain, okay? Remember, architectural, 1/16, 1/8 inch snapping. All right.